In this video, we do a table discussion with the parents of answering the question, will we allow our kids to drive the Hatfield McCoy trail system again, knowing what we know now? Stick around to the end. We answer additional questions about which trail system worried us the most and what was our overall thoughts about this trip in general. Please show your support by hitting the subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to turn on notifications. I'm here with my wife, Jenna, Doug, and his wife, Sasha. We're going to answer the question, will we allow our kids to drive the Hatfield McCoy trails again, knowing what we know now? And we'll answer a few of the questions that someone might have if they're thinking about coming to this trail system. So, who's first?
Jenna.
Would we allow them to ride again? Yes.
So you're okay with the trail system?
I'm okay with the trail system that's marked Hatfield and McCoy.
Okay, can you elaborate on that?
I don't love them riding the Outlaw trails.
Yeah. So I don't know when this video is going to come out. It's going to come out before the series or after. But day 3 was not the trail system. It was an Outlaw trail. And so if you've watched it, you totally understand what we're talking about. If you haven't watched it, you need to wait to see that come out and you'll fully understand what we're talking about. And so from what I'm hearing, you're saying is as long as they stick to the Hatfield and McCoy trail system, they should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's challenging things that they were able to do in their buggy. They were still challenging, but the Outlaw was a little more off kilter. You know, washed out. We spent hours on the mountain.
Don't give it away.
I know, yeah.
All right, so Sasha, you, for the viewers at home, y'all don't know, but Sasha, she had to stay back at camp because they have a child under 6 years old. That obviously, one of the rules we go over in the first 5 is that you can't bring a child under 6-year-old on the trail. So she stayed back at camp. But from your viewpoint of hearing the stories of every evening when we got back, what is your thoughts about your boys riding on the trail system?
So do not have little ATVs for them because that will not make it up the mountain.
He just robs what Doug was going to say.
I'll be right back, guys.
If you're a mama bear like me and you freak out a little bit with the thought of them going up these mountains, not making it, you want to spend a whole lot of money and get them, did I see the thunder again?
No.
Okay. And get them a 200. So once they did that, I felt a lot better about them riding up on the mountains just because you just
Roll cages.
Roll cages and safety.
Seatbelts.
And
Yeah,
seatbelts,
there's a lot of reasons for it.
Yeah, a lot of reasons for them to be on the 200 versus a 4-wheeler. It just made me feel a lot better. Staying at home at base while they were all riding, you start getting a little nervous, wondering how long this thing is going to take them, but they all made it back alive.
Every night.
Every night.
Every night.
Every night.
No matter what
Uninjured,
time
not
it
just
was.
alive.
Yeah.
We were
No, you guys
the
were
way we
good.
left, just
You guys were
dirtier.
good.
Speak for yourself.
But I recommend do not bring a baby with you if you're going to go riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't even
Because then you
close.
can't enjoy. You can't enjoy it.
So to elaborate on what you're talking about, they brought, if you haven't seen our South Carolina series, I encourage you to go watch that, and you'll see they have these Coleman scramblers. I think they're 125cc machines for their boys. And in South Carolina, those trails, the risk of, in the event of an error, is not as high, meaning there's no cliff. You usually got mountain on both sides. I mean, there might be a gradual drop, but
Like a hill.
yeah, but in the event of an error, you're not, the consequence isn't death. Here, it's a little more riskier if, you know, if there's a malfunction or if the kid doesn't know how to operate the machine very well. And what she was alluding to is like, they realized that day 1 when the
Day
when the-
one, hour one.
within the first 15 minutes,
Oh, yeah.
they had to come back and drop those spoilers off. It just didn't have enough power.
Yeah.
And we were on a green trail,
Yeah.
connector trail to even get to the system, and they weren't able to make it up the hill. And so brought those back to camp. Kids rode with them day one, and then they went and bought a Rzr 200 because they seen how ours performed in South Carolina and going up the trails that day. So that's what she was alluding to. Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would let them ride here again as long as, kind of like what you're saying, they have the right equipment, and we stick to the trails we know what we're getting into. So
Yeah.
it was, you talked about
Smart trails.
the Outlaw trail. You just, and that's the part, you just don't know what you're getting into on some days. And so when you start out, it could be great and end up not great. So, but there's a lot that they can ride here.
Ton.
Yeah,
Ton.
with the right machine. If you have enough power and they have the skill to do it, there's a lot of trails here for them to ride, and I would absolutely bring them back again. I plan on coming back here.
Yeah.
So the GPX files that we share is a big circle. That's how we ride. We leave in the morning time, and then we get back and supper. And so, I was,
Or later.
or midnight, depending on what day you're watching. And so you'll see, like, the trail system itself. If you had a youth machine and all you want to do is stick to green trails, there's plenty to fill up a day or two of that, and then you can just move on to the next trail system. Our intention was to spend one day at each trail system, make a loop out of it, see all the points of interest that trail system has to offer, and then go to the next one the following day. So, so my thoughts is it depends based on the experience of the youth driver. Like I said before, the consequence of if an error happens are extremely high. And so we push the limits to help y'all make better decisions. And so we went on green and moderate. And so moderate are steeper and skinnier. There's times that both our machines are the widest that are on the market. The one she drives is 72 inches wide, the one I drive 74 inches wide. And I'm saying in some points that trail was the width of my machine. Now Rzr 200 is much skinnier than my machine, but that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for error for a kid to go up a steep incline like this. Now, momentum carried them up. The Rzr 200, very impressive. We'll do a video on just that, on our thoughts about it, the damage that occurred on day 3 of riding. How did it handle it? What was the end result and all those? But that would be my suggestion. Our oldest kids have 7 years experience driving. Our youngest boy has 2 or 3 years. He's on that cusp of driving. And there were some times as a parent, I was nervous. Obviously, you're hoping they can handle it and they make the right decisions, but the consequences are extremely high. So we're not telling you to bring your youth driver in the drive. We're saying it's dangerous, and if you do bring them, and that's what you have to consider. The rules here that they have to be the age of that the manufacturer states on the machine to drive the machine, to not get in trouble with the DNR. And there's tons of people on Facebook saying they've been bringing their kids up for years with them driving, never had any issues. We drove up here, didn't have any issues, but our kids have experience. So you make the best decision for y'all. So the next question I want to ask is, was there a trail system that you had more concern on? And we'll start with Doug. Was there a trail system you had more concern on than others, not including Outlaw trails? Because obviously, when we talk about Outlaw trails, it's like we didn't know the rating of the trail. That was the problem. And that day starts off very slow. Like this is going to be easy breezy, not very entertaining, and then just escalated quickly into chaos. And so,
Questioning your ability as a parent.
yeah, to make decisions, like it got bad. So taking that out, was there, out of the 3 we rode Rock House, Devil Ants, and Buffalo Mountain. Out of those 3 trail systems, is there one that concerned you more than the other?
I don't think so. I think on the ones that were actual part of the trail system, it came to what's, it gets steeper and it gets narrower. So the ability of the ones that we're driving, I wasn't concerned about. Not too concerned about. We were limited on how much we got to drive, but I think they're all doable, and there wasn't anything outside of the Outlaw trails where I thought this might be too tough or something like that. Yeah.
And so that's with us doing easy and as many moderates as we could within the path of us getting to all the points of interest. And so our objective is to only ride moderate if they can all connect, but they don't. And so you got to take easy trails, which you can just go faster on. I know it may be hard for you to answer, so I'll go to Jana. Was there one trail system over the others that gave you more concern with our boys driving?
You're not gonna like this answer, but the first day was my favorite, and I don't know the other days what trail system we were on. But the first day was my favorite because we were just rolling through the hills, and it was fun, going fast. It's easy breezy. It was wide trails, and it was the most fun to me. Now, I don't love the scarier ones when they get steeper and more narrow, but I did love the first day. Was that Rock House?
I was Rock House, but that day we only did easy because we didn't know the landscape.
What we were getting into.
And we already had trouble with the four-wheelers.
Yeah.
On a green trail.
We're even on it's just the entry.
That was the entry, but
you could almost see it from the highway.
Was so high. Well, I was like, Lord Jesus,
you get on
I
and
was
just took off
praying.
straight up.
I was praying too.
That was steep. The steep's not necessarily the difficult part.
Well, it just rained too, and it was super
We
slick.
needed help.
And youth machines are only two-wheel drive, and so that's always a hurdle. And so that contributed to the problem. We stayed in Gilbert, and that's the connector trail we're talking about. On a fully four-wheel drive machine, easy breezy, no problem at all. So, but our Rock House day, I think we stick to mostly easy trails because of that experience.
But
With
it was the most fun to me as a mother.
I think I prayed the most on this trip over my kids that I've ever done in my life.
I know. I should definitely pray for them more because I'm like, this is the most, and it's like every single day, and I should do this all of their lives. But
on day one, I looked over and she's holding her hand. Dear Jesus. I was like, okay, I haven't done that before. That's cool. Yeah.
We're going off to war.
I know. I'm like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Okay.
But I will say, the one day the second day, I guess, we were still on the Hatfield McCoy trails, and that was a little more hairy.
Yeah, so that was gonna be my answer. So it was day 2 of riding when we started at Rock House Overlook and worked our way to Devil Ants Overlook. So the trails from Rock House to the Devil Ants entry, they got pretty tight, and they were stair-step steep inclines. We already the day before started having trouble with one of our machines. I think the belt was wearing down on it, and so if it didn't have a lot of momentum. So there's a few times where, my wife had line of sight of the second Rzr 200, but I lost it because you're going up so steep, and when you break over, you can't see anything. And if they're not right behind you, you lose it for seconds. So there's a few times where I'm just like, please make it. And we only had one situation where they got super off camber. It was the first one, Rzr 200. Took the wrong line. We didn't touch the machine, coached them to go back, regained momentum, took the right line, made it up. And so there's situations like that where if you bring a youth driver and you're doing moderate trails, the youth driver has to have full understanding what line to take. If you take the wrong line, you get a very bad outcome. And so that's the part I go back to. Should you allow youth drivers to drive this trail system? Not like we're overly cautious, but is it worth the risk? You know what I'm saying? And so that's where you have to decide as a parent, is it worth the risk if your kid doesn't have a lot of experience that you probably really want to think through.
Also, just keeping on it.
Staying in the throttle, yeah.
Yeah.
But these youth machines are two-wheel drive, and if you're going up a steep incline like this, you can't lose momentum. That's the thing. And then we saw a weight difference too with the bigger kids in the machine needed more momentum, obviously. So for the less weight kids, you know, the machine was able to muscle them over. But all right, last question is, what is your final thoughts about Hatfield McCoy and youth drivers overall? We'll start with Sasha, since she wasn't able to come on trail, but she's heard the stories. She made the decision to forcing them to go get a Rzr 200
Hey, maybe
for safety purposes.
Oh yeah.
maybe during South Carolina I would have done the same thing.
My truck only has a 3-star safety rating, so I think maybe for the kids, you know.
You might
time
need a
works for
better
me.
truck.
I'm taking an airplane home.
What's your overall thoughts about Hatfield McCoy trail system and kids riding here?
The fact that you guys all made it home safely, I'm good with that. But as someone who stayed behind, the trails do take a lot longer than what we've done in the past. When I was able to ride, we would go out and we'd come back home in time for dinner or whatever, and I felt like you all were gone a lot longer than normal.
Yeah.
And from what you all were saying is, 12 miles took you 10 hours.
Oh yeah. There was
I mean,
days
there was
where
days
like,
where it
what's
was-
taking
it was
so
long.
long? Like,
Yeah.
this is just crazy. But
Yeah.
But I can say, the boys came back and they had a blast and they had fun and they were, covered in mud and all that stuff. So I was at more peace when they went up in the 200 than in the Pullman. So that made me feel good.
Yeah.
Doug, your thoughts, final thoughts on Hatfield McCoy?
I definitely would have put more thought into it had I seen a video like this. And so, overall, I think it's a great place. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the kids all had a blast. I don't think anybody didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? I think they're all looking forward to it. And so I think it's a great place. And I think as long as you have a way to communicate clearly with them while they're riding, and that's the other thing, is really just being able to communicate with them. And they have some experience. Your boys have more experience than mine do, but they were still able to do, mine were still able to do okay, And so I think that's, as long as they have some experience somewhere else, it's worth bringing them out here. But I would definitely, if they don't have a lot of experience, probably stick to greens.
Right. This is not the place to learn.
It's not, I don't think this is the place to learn.
Yeah.
You know, greens, I mean, maybe, but the greens are still steep. That's the thing. Like, you can still mess up.
Yeah,
And
the
there's
feeder
still
trail
cliffs.
to the main system is steep inclines, and if it rains, it's muddy. You're trying to get a two-wheel drive machine. If your kid doesn't understand momentum and line selection, like the consequences off the cliff, like that's the problem. That's
And it's straight down for a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah, that's it.
it's not like the tree line is going to catch them. There's a lot of places where it's bare and it's not even a tree to catch them till like 10 or 15 foot down. And so we're not trying to scare you not to bring your kids, but we are experienced riders. Well, our kids have been driving for many years, and we didn't anticipate that. And we've driven in the mountains of South Carolina, the mountains of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, but here it's different. It's a different breed, and trails are well maintained.
Yeah.
That's not your problem. The problem is, the
We
cliff.
have cliffs on both sides.
And even the locals tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're on top of a ridge, and and Devil's Backbone is like that. To get to Devil's Backbone, you're driving. At one point, it's not a very long point, but at one point there's ridges on both sides.
It opens up.
So if they make a mistake, where they have no safety, they have to understand the line. And so
Thank God I didn't go.
Yeah.
Start raining out.
I don't know what else they sell, but we'd had to buy it.
Bubble machine.
Oh, man.
all right, Dana, your final thoughts about Hatfield McCoy Trail System?
On that note, I literally want to say that it'll bring you closer to the Lord. If you bring your babies up here riding, because you will pray harder than you've ever prayed in your life. So yes, it's going to bring you closer to Jesus. So you pray hard. I do have all the faith in my kids' machines and my husband and Doug, teaching them and guiding them on what they need to do along the way. But it is, it's dangerous. So you have to know that you can trust your kids, basically, to do what you're telling them to do. So if you've got kids that don't listen, don't put them in a machine.
You gotta trust them to listen, really, because
true.
if they don't, you can't
It's
stop
a-
them once they get going.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So my intro will be built off what kind of everybody's said. One is communication. So with me leading, I have hand signals that I teach my kids. So in the event the failure of our radio communication goes down, they still know what I'm trying to tell them in this stressful situation. And we've been doing this for a year, so it's not something we just learned for this trip. You know, for if they're following behind me, I require my kids to be within their machine length behind me when we're on like dirt roads and those types of things on the trails. When we're on going hill climbing and get a little further back to keep momentum. And if they're too far back, I stick my arm out and I roll it like this to wind them back up. But they understand when I'm going like this, that means you're too far out. I need you to wind back up closer to me. If we're on a rock road, they're getting too much in the center, I tell them to get over. And they know not to drive in a ditch, but they're not trying to see around me, they just need to focus on my machine. And so there's those things we've implemented to where we don't need radios, but we still have radios. So the next thing is, you know, what form of communication we're going to use. For the adults, we all have ride command in our units, and so we have the ability to text communicate to each other. But for the kids, they don't have that. And so we've done a video on the radios we use. We've been through a range of radios that I addressed in that video. I'll actually link that below for you. And so that radio system allows you to have headsets in the helmets if you want them, or you have the handhelds that plug into the side that's easier for them to grab. Over the years, we found that we just used the radio. In these Rzr 200s, there's actually a support beam that's welded into the top of the cage that you can just clip it to. I don't need them to communicate back to me, I just need them to hear me. And so that's the form we use.
And they can signal that they've heard you.
Correct, through hand signal or head shake. But not that far back, so I can see them. If they get in trouble, all they gotta do is press the button and speak upward towards the roof, and then I'll hear the audio. Now, if we're flying down the road, machine's loud, you know, but they have the call button that they could press to set it off. It'll get my attention, and then I'll pull over, and then we'll address whatever issues you need. So I would say, you know, you got to figure that part out if you're going to bring in. And the biggest thing is what Doug said. This is not a place for your child to learn. This is not a place for them to be their first trail system to ride on. My opinion only. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. If it was my kid's first time to ride a machine, I would not bring him here. And I'm willing to push the limit on some things, as you saw in day 3. Like, I'm willing. There's something I heard years ago that's resonated with me and has really helped me make decisions and, you know, how far I'll let them go, is allowing your kids to do dangerous things safely. That's how they grow as individuals. And so they need to know it's dangerous. They need to know how to stay calm. Our day 3, if you haven't seen that video, I mean, I think any other kids would be crying, upset. We didn't get back till 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And there was a string of things that happened. I think I counted 8 to 10 that I addressed in that video. And our kids stayed calm the entire time. They knew we're going to get out the woods. They had full confidence in their ability. And that's because over years, allowing them to do dangerous things safely has allowed them to build that confidence. So when they actually move out of my house, I know they can contribute to society as a good citizen. So, I mean, there's a lot they learn on the trails. That's the only thing I have to say is, don't let this be your kid's first experience with driving. You might not get the same outcome. So, those are our final thoughts of kids driving the Hatfield and McCoy trail system. This is the place you want to come check out. Check out the description of this video for links to free GPX files of waypoints and routes that we took while at our trip here. Please show your support by hitting the subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to turn on notifications. If you found this video informative, please smash the like button, and thanks for watching.